I didn't mean to hear my own name, certainly not spoken like a punchline, but once I did, there was no going back. It came through the half-open dining room door in sharp practice beats. The Christmas program, their laughter, the joke costume I didn't know I was supposed to wear, and then the line that froze me mid-step. "The oil stains will get a laugh," my father said. That was when my heart shifted, heavy and final, like something irreversible had just clicked into place. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. People like to talk about families as if they're built on warmth, but in the Reed house, silence was the glue. I grew up inside a perfectly curated photograph. Gold lighting, polished floors, symmetrical picture frames, but nothing soft ever lived there. From the time I was 12, I learned how to walk without echoing, how to shrink without visibly folding, how to swallow without sound. My mother, Marlene, loved things presentable, which was her polite word for suffocating. My father, Daniel, lived for perception, his stores, his status, the way people lowered their voices around him like he taught them how. And my siblings? Aaron, the medical prodigy, was the quiet standard I was never supposed to reach, and Belle, the family darling, understood early that image was currency. I was the only one who didn't fit the frame. When I turned 18 and told them I wanted to study automotive engineering, the room actually flinched. I still remember the spoon dropping from my father's hand, the metallic clang ringing longer than it should have. Belle laughed. Not cruelly, just amused. Like I had told her I wanted to become a pirate. Aaron hid a smirk behind the back of his hand. My mother blinked 3 slow times, her buffering face, before sliding a brochure for an office assistant program across the counter later that night. My place was clear. Be small, be quiet, don't make them explain me to anyone. The micro-humiliations piled up like dust they thought I couldn't see. Belle would wrinkle her nose on live streams when I walked behind her camera. Oil fumes again. And her comment section would spam laughing emojis. Aaron would pat my shoulder with that doctorly pity. Careful with all that physical labor. My mother inspected my hands at holidays, her gaze sticking to the faint grease stains like they were moral failings. I stayed quiet because that was the role I had learned, the easy one, the ignorable one. And silence in that house kept everything smooth. But silence has a breaking point. Mine happened the night I walked into my parents' house carrying a small, neatly wrapped gift I'd bought after a long shift at the garage. The hallway was dim, the soft lights glowing in that curated, pretend warm way the Reed house always did in winter. I heard my father's voice before I even reached the dining room. Then Belle's chiming laugh. Then Aaron's careful chuckle. I shouldn't have stopped, but I heard my name. Peyton. My mother said it with a tone like she was trying it out for humor. Then the rustle of paper, scripts, timing, rehearsal. They weren't planning a Christmas program. They were planning a Christmas skit about me. The jumpsuit I'd have to wear. The toy car they'd hand me. The line about oil stains they would deliver on stage at church. And then my father said the line that ripped the floor out from under me. "We'll read the will afterward. It'll land better that way." My grip tightened around the gift until the paper bent. The laughter inside the room blended into a soft blur like sound underwater. I backed away slowly, the cold hallway suddenly sharper than the winter outside. Not one of them paused. Not one sensed me standing there, hearing them rehearse my humiliation like it was a light-hearted Christmas tradition. I walked out, set the gift on the porch bench. Didn't knock. Didn't breathe. I drove until the houses blurred into a smear of light. The first place open that late was a gas station off the highway, buzzing neon sign, wet pavement reflecting the light in cold streaks. I parked in the far corner, turned off the engine and let silence swallow me. My hands shook only once, then went still. I didn't call a family member. I didn't cry. I called the only person who knew my family's patterns as well as I did. Noor Patel, my CPA and closest friend. When I asked her to open the lease folder for the LLC, she hesitated. "Are you okay?" she asked. I didn't answer. She clicked through files. Stopped. Clicked again. "Peyton," she said slowly, "you need to sit down." I told her I was in my truck. She told me to open the lease agreement for the commercial property in Plano. My father's flagship showroom. The one he bragged about every Christmas. The property I purchased years ago through my real estate LLC. I knew logically that I owned it, but I had never connected it back to them emotionally until I saw the document. 3 missed payments. A pending market rate increase I had highlighted months ago. A non-renewal clause waiting for a signature. And under landlord in bold letters. Peyton Reed. Me. I stared at the screen, neon buzzing through the windshield, the smell of motor oil rising from the cloth in my jacket pocket. Nor whispered, "They're behind on rent. They're vulnerable. This is leverage." But it didn't feel like leverage. Felt like clarity. "What do you want to do?" she asked. I looked at the unsigned notices. At the overdue ledger. At the clause my father ignored because he never imagined I'd enforce it. "Everything," I said quietly. "By the book." We spent the next hour preparing the packet. Notice of default, notice of non-renewal, updated market rent, ownership verification, cover letter. Clean. Professional. Emotion removed. When I pressed send to courier, the confirmation pinged softly. I closed the laptop. That was the moment I knew part 2 of my story wasn't going to happen in secret halls or behind half-open doors. It was going to happen under bright lights, in front of everyone who had ever watched them perform. And my family had no idea what was already on its way. Christmas Eve moved on without me, but the Reed family operated on routine, not awareness. At the church banquet hall, garlands hung in perfect arcs, poinsettias lined the stage, and volunteers whispered as if they were part of a televised production. My mother thrived in spaces like these. Spaces that looked generous even when the people inside them weren't. She floated around greeting donors, adjusting centerpieces, completely unaware that a courier was threading his way through the hallway with a white envelope bearing her name. He found her at 6:47 p.m. She smiled, assuming it was a last-minute RSVP. But when she slid the papers out, her face broke in stages, confusion, then disbelief, then the first tremor of fear. One by one, pages spilled across the table under the warm lights. Notice of default, non-renewal, overdue ledgers, and at the bottom of the ownership record in clean font, my name as landlord. Daniel grabbed the papers, his jaw tightening. Aaron read silently, eyes narrowing the longer he stared. Belle looked from face to face like someone had stolen her script. Conversations around the room thinned. Even the children's choir practicing carols seemed to go quiet, as if the air itself leaned in. "Why would Peyton do this tonight?" one of my aunts whispered. My mother's voice cracked. "She wouldn't. She doesn't, she can't." But her eyes never left the signature. She knew. She just didn't want to. At 7:02 p.m. my father tried calling. I didn't answer. When my mother called next, her voice shook with an unfamiliar mixture of anger and panic. Behind her I could hear chairs scraping, relatives murmuring, Belle asking if this would ruin the program. I stood on the porch of a snow-covered cabin in Colorado, the cold brushing my gloves, the quiet wrapping itself around me. "Where are you?" she demanded. I didn't answer that. Instead I said, "Did you enjoy my gift?" The silence on her end landed like a falling beam. Precise, heavy, impossible to ignore. "Peyton," she tried again, softer, pleading almost. "We can fix this." "I'm not discussing this tonight," I said. "All communication can go through the LLC inbox." Before she could form another excuse, I ended the call. The wind shifted, snow drifting across my boots. For the first time in my life, the distance between us felt like protection, not punishment. And I let it stay that way.